Good morning, guys. Happy coffee talk. It's Monday. It's not a normal Monday because it's Labor Day. But I'm up and I figured let's do coffee talk anyways because I got something to share. So before we dive in, as always, let me share my coffee with you. It's in this really cool mug. This is like a an owl mug, but it kind of has like eclectic like paisley design on it. I got it from Savannah, Georgia. I was there coaching two good friends of mine. I was their coach for a Masters Nationals weightlifting competition a couple years ago, and I got this mug on that trip. So I'm drinking Black Rifle coffee, and it's delicious. So let's talk the coffee. If you're like, Christy, why are you out of breath? The reason I'm out of breath is I'm getting ready to tell you because I was just doing pull-ups. Why was I doing pull-ups? I'm going to tell you. So, coffee talk message for this morning. First off, I want to tell you something about pull-ups before I even dive into this. So, if you follow my Instagram story or if you've like looked on my stuff, you probably seen me doing strict pull-ups before. It's one of the things that I do often. I practice a lot. But I want to give you a tiny bit of a backstory behind that, and then I want to tell you where I'm at now and why this is relevant to you. So, first off, I was a soccer player growing up, and so I did some upper body things like softball, but I definitely wasn't a gymnast or something that really heavily, like a swimmer, something that really developed your upper body and back. I played soccer. And growing up, I kind of had these sort of limiting beliefs around it. I accepted labels as my identity. So I was like, oh, I am someone with strong legs. I have strong legs. That's what I have. That's who I am. I'm the girl with strong legs. Like I can kick the ball really hard, all that good stuff. I'm a fast runner, all that good things. But I was like, oh, but I have a weak upper body. And it was something that I had just accepted as me. This is me. I have a weak upper body. I didn't really have defined muscles in my arms. I didn't care. I mean, I couldn't do a couple push-ups. You know what I mean? Like I was like, well, this is me. And I accepted that. And when I went into the Navy, one of the very first things they have you do over the summer, one, you're doing a lot of push-ups, but they also have you do this like hanging bar thing. Like instead of a pull-up, you have to hang with your chin held over the bar. And it was so hard. It was like the thing of my, summer to make sure that I passed this thing because in my mind, I have weak arms. And so I just thought to myself, I have weak arms. And so I'm going to have to like do my absolute best to pass this. I in no universe thought, well, like I could work on it and get better. Nope. I was just like, I got weak arms. I better hope and pray that they don't choose something that's like arm focused, as the test. Well, at the end of the summer for Indoc, they have a rope climb. And I remember being one, a little bit afraid of heights, but two, really being afraid of my weak arms and thinking like, I have weak arms. There's no way I can climb up this rope. I'm going to get up there and fall to my death. And I probably climbed 80% of the way up that rope only to come back down and slide all of the skin off my hands because I slid back down the rope because I was afraid. And from that point on, for the next, 7 years, I was like, accepted the fact that one, I had weak arms, that I had failed the rope climb, that I couldn't do a pull up, and that was just me. That was the story that was me, was that I couldn't do those things. And then, the year that Josh was gone on deployment and I really found my own transformation, the year that I lost 40 pounds and really kind of reclaimed me, I was reintroduced to pull-ups because I started going to CrossFit. And I remember seeing women doing pull-ups and seeing their muscles and being like, wow, why can't that be me? Still in the mindset of like, I just didn't have those genetics, or why couldn't I be strong like that? But oh well, like I'm good at these other things. I'm good at this. So ask me to do this, but don't ask me to do those things. That was my mindset around it. But slowly over time, I started spending more time on the pull-up bar because in CrossFit, you do a lot of things hanging from the bar, whether it's knee raises or some sort of banded pull up. I mean, I remember, so there's these really thick bands in CrossFit. They give you, and they have this in most gyms. They start from like really thin, like a little red thin band, all the way up to the absolute thickest black band. The black band like has the most tension in it. And so if you're using it to help you do a pull up, you're taking off like 100 pounds of weight potentially. And so that's what I would use to do pull-ups and thinking, well, this is what I'm going to have to use. I'm the girl with the black band. And I would just get stuck like that until, one day I just tried the green band, and then one day I tried the next one. And I don't know. And I was working with a trainer at the time, and this trainer I've referenced before, he's definitely changed my life. But I remember he used to put me up on the pull-up bar and just have me pull. He would take away the band and say, I just want you to pull as hard as you can, and let's see where you're at and see if you can get up there. And I would always be so terrified of that because it felt like a test. It felt like a pass fail. Like, I can't do it. I have weak arms. Remember, I told you that. And so when he would put me up there, I was like afraid that he would be disappointed that I couldn't do it, that I would be annoyed that I couldn't do it, that it would reinforce the fact that I can't do it. But he continually put me up on that bar and made me pull, and he would help. He would put his hands behind my back and support me as I would go up the pull-up. And he would give me just enough help to get me all the way up so that my chin was over the bar. And we would do this all the time. So I was practicing a little bit in CrossFit. I was hanging from the bar a lot more. And then whenever I would see my trainer, he would have me do that. Well, one day at his Pain in the Park class, out in the park, we were doing his boot camp class. I hung from a bar and I did a pull-up. And it blew my mind. All the time that I was in the Navy, all the time that I had done sports and athletics and all those things, I had never once done a pull-up. Never once. I'd always thought, well, that's not possible. That's not me. And then all of a sudden I did one. And over the past, I don't know, however many years, I've continued to work on my pull-ups and continued to work on my upper body. So like pressing and pushing and all of those things. And turns out I have a pretty strong upper body too, because I worked on it. And so, I've got a couple of things about this story that I want you to take away. First off, the limiting beliefs that I was telling myself, the narrative that I have weak arms, might be something that you're telling yourself. Are you telling yourself that you're just genetically stuck being overweight? Are you telling yourself that you're unathletic, that you don't have leadership skills, that you could never be a blah, blah, blah? Are you telling yourself you're just not good in social situations? Are you telling yourself you have weak arms, you have weak legs, you have a short fuse? What kind of stories and limiting beliefs have you put on yourself when the truth of the matter is that you've actually just never worked on it? And so if you look at that and you're like, yeah, I've been telling myself forever that I'm always going to be fat or overweight or whatever, I'm stuck this way. You've accepted that identity and you start to reinforce it. Because if you look back at my pull-up story, not only was that the identity that I claimed, but I reinforced it because I didn't work on it. Why would I work on it if I'm always going to be terrible at pull-ups? Why would you do anything about it if you're going to be overweight forever? Why would you try to get in shape if you think that you're not athletic and that your body can't get strong? Why would you even try? So you would reinforce the limiting belief. In Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, she talks about limiting beliefs and the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And if you haven't read that book, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that book. But when we have our fixed beliefs, our limiting belief systems, we operate inside of that and then we reinforce it. And so therefore we never have any evidence or proof that something could be otherwise because we've only done what would reinforce that. In fact, we avoid situations in which it would be tested because then we would be embarrassed. That's not something I'm good at. I don't want to do that. I'm not good at that, so I don't want to do that. Put me in this category. This is something I am good at. Put me on team kickball. I can kick the ball, but don't put me on team pull-up because I'm terrible at pull-ups. And we reinforce that over and over and over again. And so maybe in your life, you're reinforcing the belief systems that you've adopted to be true that may or may not be true. Question the narratives that you tell yourself. Now, the second thing that I want you to take away from this story is that when I started to challenge that belief system, it was through consistent exposure. It wasn't like one day I was like, I'm going to be the pull-up girl and jumped up and did pull-ups. Nope. In fact, it was more gradual because I just started slowly chipping away at that. I joined CrossFit. Like that was outside of my comfort zone. There's rope climbs, there's pushing things with your arms, there's pull-ups, there's all these things. So just doing that was outside of my comfort zone. So that was like step one. Then hanging from the bar at all, putting my hands up there. It was like these little exposures that I started to put deliberately. This was not an accident though. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can have exposures that are an accident, but this was not an accident. I slowly started exposing myself on purpose. I started paying, $150 a month to go to CrossFit. That was a big expense to invest in, but I started exposing myself. I started paying for a trainer. And the trainer saw what I was doing and could push me. And here's the second part of what I want you to understand. Me pushing past my limiting belief was really not done in isolation. Although it could have been, it made it significantly easier because, one, I had a group of people who were also doing something similar. They were all pushing past their own things, and I was exposed to that. Two, I had skin in the game. I had signed up, paid money, invested in myself to do something. And so I was committed to showing up in a different way than if I was just thinking about it and one day hoping to follow some pull-up program online. Third, I put myself with a coach, an actual coach who could support me. He literally, with his hands, supported me while I developed the strength to do it on my own. That is coaching. He knew what to do. He knew how to encourage me to get up there and do it, even though I didn't want to. And he literally put his hands on my back and supported me. There is no better metaphor of what I think that we do in Fit Me as coaches than that. It is seeing the path forward, encouraging you to take steps in that direction, even when you don't want to, and then supporting you with our hands physically on you while you do it until you are strong enough to do it on your own. That is what he did for me. I put myself in a position to have a coach to help me do that. And then the last thing is the community, the fun of it. Do you know when I got that first pull up, how many people cheered and gave me high fives? I mean, it doesn't matter if you get the accolades from people, but I'm telling you, that helps. That was fun. That was motivating to me. It was very motivating. It was motivating to have the picture of me doing the pull-up and everybody be like, oh my God, you're doing a pull-up. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. So those are some of the takeaways from that story. One, the limiting beliefs and narratives that you're telling yourself are keeping you in a box, and you're reinforcing it by living inside of that box. It's time to start changing something and challenge those narratives. Are they even true? Or have you just not worked on it? Because that was the case for me. There was no truth in the fact that I had weak arms. The truth was that I hadn't worked on it. The truth was I had never put myself in a position to get stronger. Had I done that back when I first joined the Navy and I had focused really hard that summer on getting a pull-up, I would have got a pull-up. And I probably would have climbed that rope. And then my story would have been different. But I didn't think that way then. I just accepted it. And I wasted time accepting it. And I probably missed out on cool stuff because I accepted it. So what are you accepting in your life as a story or a truth that you just haven't challenged, you haven't worked on yet? You've always assumed you're going to be overweight. You've always assumed you have a slow metabolism. You always assumed that you couldn't be athletic or strong or fit. But those are just belief systems that you've accepted and then reinforced. And then second, when are you going to put yourself in a position to actually change that? It is not going to happen accidentally. Just like I said, it was exposure, but it was intentional exposure. I put myself in a situation to be around opportunities, people, coaching, and community in order to change what I could do, what my body was physically capable of. I put that in motion, and then those things helped me. It supported me. And Fit Me, like our tagline is, we support you thrive. That's what this means. We support you as you're getting strong enough and learning how to do it yourself, and then you thrive. You do it. So, the end of the story, I guess, is that, that trainer, I moved away a year later, and since then, it's probably been 8 or so years that I've continued to exercise and work on things and do pull-ups. Even after I had Georgia, I was like, that was one of the first things I wanted to get back to doing was strict pull-ups. And so it's never stopped being something that I work on. But even in the stage that I'm at right now, there are still times when I catch myself operating inside of a belief system that's not fair or that's not true. So I caught myself in that yesterday. I was back in the gym for the first time after being sick. And I was like, you know what? Let me see how many pull-ups I can do in a row. And I hit 9. My lifetime best is 10, by the way, before Georgia. But I hit 9 yesterday, and I'd hit 9 a couple weeks ago. So I was stuck at 9. And I sent a message to my friend, and I was like, 9. I guess I'm a 9 girl. And there it was. I was operating inside of a belief system that was the boundary for me. Oh, 9's plenty. Like 9's good enough, you know? And I said, I don't know how I'll ever get past 9. It doesn't seem to be anything different. And my friend sent me some homework, some pull-up homework. And he's like, try this, but you're going to have to do it a lot. And it's different than what I've been doing. And so I went out there this morning to do it. And I couldn't do it the way it was written. I tried and I failed. It was a pull-up ladder. So it was like 1 pull-up, then you rest, then 2, then rest, then 3, then rest, then 4, all the way up to 7 and then back down. So I made it to 7, but then on my way back down, I failed a couple times. So I failed. I failed the thing that I was trying to do in order to get better at pull-ups. But here's the thing about where my mind's at right now. 1, I caught myself in this moment of status quo, of accepting things when really I hadn't challenged it. I hadn't tried anything different and I hadn't worked on it to push past that. Now I don't need infinity pull-ups, right? But like, this is obviously something that I had thought about. So I was like, well, and then now that I am pursuing becoming better, I'm not better yet. So this morning when I failed the pull-up ladder, that is reflective of where I'm at right now. And so my very first goal isn't going to be to do 15 pull-ups. It's going to be able to complete the ladder as written, 1 up to 7 and 7 down to 1. And I'm going to have to keep working on that until I get that. But do you see that now that I'm in the game, there's a path forward? Because I'm willing to fail, there's something to work on. Because I asked for help, I actually have the insight of like, you got to do something different if you want to get past it. So that's my challenge to you. Stop accepting the stories that you've been telling yourself and those belief systems. Stop doing the same things over and over again. Ask for help. Put yourself in a situation for things to be different. Get yourself a community, a coach, an opportunity to push yourself, and then be okay with failing along the way, soft F, because that's literally your path forward. When you identify what you can't do, then we have something to work with. So that's my coffee talk message for this morning. I hope it was helpful. If you like coffee talk, do me a huge favor. So I don't have any sponsors or anything for this podcast, but if you like this podcast, do me a huge favor, screen capture it and then share it on Instagram and tag me. I will reshare it, which is super fun because then we are like having almost like a conversation. I know you listened and I get to share it, but it also tells people about the podcast. And so that really means a lot to me. It helps get the word out. And if you like this episode and you think it would help someone in particular, sometimes just sending it to them directly and saying like, you would like this, listen, it means a lot because personal recommendations and endorsements are the thing. You know, at the end of the day, I could look at a million things online and I might not get anything. And if somebody's like, get that, I'll just do it based off of trusting them. And so if you share this with someone, it means the world to me because I know that they will trust you and listen. So thank you so much for doing that. And if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go on over to Facebook and search Fit Me Community, request to join the group. I will add you in there. It's a perfect place for you to get started making some of these changes in a free community where you can get to know other women who are doing this too. And you can get some more information on our programs and see what Fit Me is all about. So go to Facebook and search Fit Me Community, request to join the group, and I will see you over there. Take care. Bye.